Right, so this morning I finally get to do the GCT conversation I've been wanting to have. I kept getting distracted by all the beauty pageant stuff, but I've been wanting to talk about GCT and the proposal to possibly cut GCT, for there to be some tax cuts in the next budget. As you would have known by now, the PNP has issued a proposal to reduce GCT by 2 percentage points. Party leader Dr. Peter Phillips made that suggestion at a meeting of the party's National Executive Council at the William Libb Memorial High School in Trelawney late last month, and I've heard that Audley Shaw has said that they'll take it into consideration. I asked the finance minister, Dr. Nigel Clark, about it recently, and he basically said no comment. You know, they're in the midst of their budget preparations right now in December. Budget is due to be tabled in February, so I'm not surprised that he was tight-lipped on what could be coming in the budget. But as we all know by now, the PNP's very own Dr. Andre Houghton rubbished the suggestion about the 2 percentage point cut and then later walked it back. But this is what he initially said in the Senate.
Mr. President, there has been many talks, and our party leader made some hint and tossed out a bait about reducing GCT by 2%. And I heard Senator Sinclair as well as Audley Shaw talking about, yes, they are going to take this into consideration without breaking down the numbers. Mr. President, let me, instead of break down, let me break up the numbers. If we are supposed to reduce GCT by 2%, moving it from 16.5 to 14.5%, it will cost the country around 25 to 26 billion, assuming that every year we intake 200 billion from GCT. Now this 2% is going to cost the country $26 billion. That is the average cost. Now, what is the cost? And no one is setting up everyone. I mean, economics is a simple thing, you know. It's just numbers, dollars and cents. It's going to cost us 26 billion. Now, what is the benefit to the average Jamaican consumer? What is the benefit to the average consumer? I mean, if you buy something for $100, you'll pay $16.15 GCT. You're going to save $2. If you buy something for $1,000, you might save $20. If you buy something for $10,000, you're going to save $200. And when you buy something for $100,000, you will save $2,000. Now, Mr. President, is this savings as significant enough to each Jamaican for us to sacrifice 26 billion to achieve? Huh? Is it? We have to think more carefully about what our objectives are.
So we've discussed the politics of this statement, him being kind of forced to toe the party line and whatnot, and basically take it back. But I want to discuss the substance of what was said, both by him and by Dr. Phillips. The question remains, should the government slash GCT in the next budget? I think that's a debate that's worthy of having. And I actually think that there is room for further tax cuts. We've been consistently hitting and exceeding our tax collection targets, and we've also been exceeding our primary surplus target, which at 7% is one of the highest, if not the highest in the world. And you know, the primary surplus is the money that we set aside to pay back debt. So we've been meeting our debt repayment targets, the primary surplus targets, our tax collection targets. In the 2018-19 budget, we were budgeted to collect $518 million in taxes, of which $177 billion was in GCT. Now 7% more than the previous year. In this fiscal year, we're budgeted to collect $575 million in taxes, including $197 million in GCT. That's 11% more than the previous year. Now, I don't have the updated figures on how much of that we've already collected, but from all accounts, we've been comfortably meeting those collection targets plus tax, no pun intended. So would it hurt the country to lose that $26 billion that Dr. Houghton estimates. So I can't actually comment on the precise figure, 26 billion, the 2% proposal, without the data to actually say how much room we do have. But certainly there is some wiggle room for something to be done.
So what's the big benefit that would accrue? I'm assuming people get to spend more in the economy and it trickles through as opposed from collecting it from...
Exactly. You get more money in your pocket. You're spending...
Yeah, but what's like the macroeconomic benefit for that argument, other than...
I'm coming to that.
Okay.
I'm coming to that. So certainly there is some wiggle room for something to be done, which is why the government was comfortable enough in the last budget to present tax give-backs for the first time in God knows how long. And I think there's room for another give-back in the coming year. And considering the fact that this is largely expected to be an election budget, I'm expecting something like this to come. And politically, it has to be bigger than what was done last year. And last year was the stuff on the real estate taxes and the housing and whatnot. So GCT is the obvious one. I think that would score them the most political points, simply based on utilitarianism, the greatest good for the greatest number. GCT affects the most people. Everybody has to pay GCT. You can't avoid it. It's charged on almost everything. So politically, it would be very sexy to go on a platform and say, elect me and I'll slash GCT, or elect me because I slashed GCT. We are the government that cut the most taxes. Remember, they were already elected on a platform in 2016 to drastically reduce income tax, the 1.5 proposal, which they implemented. So there's income tax, there's the houses, there's the taxes related to housing that were reduced last year. GCT would be the icing on the cake. And to come to your point now, I don't agree, or to your question, I should say, I don't agree with Andre Houghton that cutting GCT wouldn't make a difference to the average Jamaican. A 2 percentage point drop is not insignificant. That's real money to real people. Like Jamaican people say, every mickle make a muckle. It adds up. So he's saying that you're only saving $2 on $100. Well, that's $2,000 on $100,000. And let's say that $100,000 is your monthly salary. That's $24,000 a year. Now, who wouldn't want an extra $24,000 at the end of the year? Additionally, a 2 percentage point cut is not to be viewed in isolation. Just the same way a 2 percentage point raise cannot be viewed in isolation, because we didn't get to 16.5% GCT overnight. It crept up year after year after year. As each year Jamaica has been in trouble, the government has piled on more taxes and raised the rates to make up for the budget deficit that we've historically had. So a reduction in the GCT rate could be viewed as part of a downward trend in taxes, a reversal from all those years of consistent raises. So let's say this year it goes from 16.5 to 14.5. In another 2 years, it could go down again to 12.5. And then another couple years, we're down to 10%. And the difference between 10% and 16.5% is definitely noticeable in your pocket. But if you don't start somewhere, you never get back down to 10% and possibly less. In the US, I think the equivalent sales tax is about 8%, depending on which state you're in.
Yes.
It varies, but you get my drift. We're a very highly taxed country. And the same way that taxes have crept up over the years, I'd like to see them start creeping down. So I don't agree that 2 percentage point cut wouldn't make a difference. It makes a difference both now, you can get back $24,000 a year if you're making $100,000 a month, and it makes a difference for the trajectory of what taxes are to look like in the future. Or, and this one would get my vote, they could go back to their 2016 focus on income tax and finally abolish income tax once and for all. Hey, I'd love that.
Yeah. And that would be a fully
I'd
indirect
love
model.
that.
Yeah.
I'd love that for purely selfish reasons.
Yes.
That one gets my vote. Because, gosh, I know when you look at your pay slip and you see that income, how much they take out that income tax, I just don't look at it. You see how much comes out in income tax every month. It hurts. But only a handful of people, since the 1.5 was implemented, only a handful of people still pay income tax. So the argument is, and I agree, for selfish reasons, that it's unfair. It would be a very sexy political statement to say we are the party that abolished income tax. And so, and I see why the PNP would jump on the issue of taxes as well, because politically it's something that everybody is interested in, and they'd want to be the one to take credit for the idea if that is the direction in which the Wholeness administration goes in the next budget. So I'm definitely looking forward to the next budget. It's going to be tabled, or it's expected to be tabled in February and debated in March, and exciting times ahead, I hope. I think there is room for some tax cuts. What they're going to target, I don't know, but let's see what happens.
Interesting times.
That's what's on my mind.